This is part 3 of building a cozy bed.
How you doing, guys? I don't know if you can hear me, but I am live. Share. Just let me know if you guys can hear me all right. Because I know it's always it's a little bit funky sometimes, so I'm just posting a few things here just to let everybody know that I am currently live. And then we'll start rambling about what we're seeing, what we're not seeing, and so on. Alright, let's check the delay as well. It's about 4 seconds, 4 or 5 seconds delay. That's fine, that's good. I'm happy with that. Yeah, alright, nice one, free gender. Sweet. So I'm going to try and condense a lot of information into a 30-minute kind of podcast or live stream. And as always, I just want to talk about reality. I don't really want to talk about what we think and what our emotions are telling us and what our minds are telling us and our brains. I want to focus on reality and just kind of try and figure out the expectation going into the close of this year, because next year is where it's really at. Obviously we're not really going to see much, I don't think, from now until the remainder of the year. We could see some more downside, obviously, on Binance, but ultimately for me, and I've always maintained this, I've always expected Binance to go to the levels that I've said. It does take a while. Obviously it's taken a long time, for all of this stuff to unfold, but there's just so many variables that are in play at the moment. And were in play way before all of this news came out recently about Binance and CZ and all of this stuff, to not warrant a drop. I mean, it's unheard of. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, right? That we're going to start seeing like a multi-year run. The Bitcoin for now is on its own page. Bitcoin's doing its own thing. Binance is really where it's at. This is where we want to focus our attention, because a lot of us are affected by Binance. Massively affected by Binance. All right, let me show you guys something. I'm not really a fan of doing this, to be honest, but I want to show you something, and I have to do it with Evergrow because it's the most what's the term? It's the most potent example, right? So their LP was in the 2 million plus, right? And with everything that's just happened recently with Binance, you can see. If we and what we're looking at here, this is a daily. We can't give. Okay, that's fine. So I want to show you the impact, and it's shown really clearly on Evergrow. This is why I'm using Evergrow as an example, and then we'll move on. But price was kind of all the way up here, in sort of a bunch of zeros, 48, and now we're down. I think it was like 37 or 30. 39, right? So around about, a bunch of zeros, 39. You're talking about a clear 10 point move, basically. I'll forget the zeros. It was a 10-point move, give or take, right? That's very aggressive, just out of nowhere. And it doesn't seem like a big deal. You're like, okay, well, kind of stuck in a range, it's going sideways, fine. And I don't want to talk about Evergrow. I'm just showing you the example of a drop on Binance. Yeah, BNB affects all asset classes, right? I said that wrong. A drop on BNB affects all projects that are on the Binance Smart Chain, right? So I would expect that we're going to continue going lower on Binance at some point. Now what does that look like? If we just go over to the weekly here, well, I'll show you the monthly first, to be honest. This is a really strong candle. This is perfect, right? And I want to really be clear about something. There's so many people, right, that talk about the news and this. Everything is factored into the chart. Everything. This is why I only look at the chart. I do some sort of surface analysis and I look at different things, but predominantly it's about the charts. Always about the charts. And over time, when you see something like this, if we close out with a really, really strong rejection like this, on the monthly chart after rebalancing here on the monthly, then the expectation is that we're going to take out the monthly low, right, which is 222, and continue going lower. Where we're going to continue going lower? The most logical place that Binance will go to is 200, right? When it finally gets, back to 200, you've got to think about what led to it getting back to 200 again, right? Before it was here, we had a nice bounce. Then it came all the way down, we had a nice bounce, right? But not as much, nowhere near as much. And now, what do we really see? What are we really seeing on Binance, right? And putting aside all of the things that we think we know with the news and all of this stuff, there you go, right? You've basically taken out this high, we've rebalanced a little bit, and now we're getting a bit of a drop. Now, this could reverse, of course, absolutely, right? I'm not saying it's absolutely 100% going to go lower at this point, but at some point it will. I very, very strongly believe that, right? So that's what I'm saying. That's what the chart is saying. And we have to just kind of go with the flow and see what happens, right? But as it starts to creep lower, right? Remember, guys, I'm not being funny or anything, but we're in the 70s, right? High of 271. 271. I've got a very specific tweet, right? It's not a tweet, it's a response. Because I don't use X anymore, right? But I quickly jumped on there because I was trying to find a private message, a DM that somebody had sent me. And you see a bunch of, notifications, and I was like, okay, so I checked the notifications, and it's a bunch of crap, really. It's basically, they just send notifications just to try and get you, sucked back in. And I saw a reference to something about me, and I was like, oh, I'll check this, and I looked into it, and I was watching it, and I kind of read through it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take a snapshot of this, or a screenshot, and we'll kind of get to that when Binance takes a little bit of a dive. But the question is it going to take a bit of a dive? Here's the real thing, right? And the reason I just mentioned the X thing is because I don't like it when people take the piss. That's my point. But that I'll sort that out in due course. Reminder: investing at PaxG versus investing in BNB volatility. Yeah, wicked, nice one, Lobo. Perfect. I'll talk about that as well. So we were at 271, right? 271, and we dropped to 222. Right, the low of the monthly low, right? Well, it's 224 on the monthly. For some bizarre reason, it's actually showing as 222. Okay, so let's just call it 223. Right, that's a nice hefty drop, right? That is a pretty decent drop. Talking about a 17-18% drop. 47. We'll call it 45. We'll be conservative. 45 points, $45 off BNB's price, right? So that's pretty dramatic. Pretty solid, right? Pretty solid drop. But you look at everything that's happening, you look at the news, a lot of people have said the same thing. Oh, they were expecting, a much more violent response, But when the market's being manipulated and you've got money being printed in terms of USDT and USDC and so on, right? And then obviously money being moved around on exchanges because obviously cooking books and God knows what else that's happening on these massive exchanges, right? Which, let's be honest, it happens, period. If anybody says it doesn't, they're just delusional, right? It happens, 100%. With all of that going on, of course, when you look at price and it's not doing this kind of aggressive flash crashy type of behavior, there's a reason for that. You can look at that and say, okay, I get that because there is fictitious money that is being created, or in this case, cryptocurrency that's being created, stable coins and a bunch of other stuff that is effectively propping price up, right? And money's basically being stolen from investors, right? Across the board. I can't remember where I saw it. It might have been in the Discord, and forgive me, I've got so much going on in my head right now, and over the last 3-4 months, I forget where I read things, right? But it might have been in my Discord. Somebody posted something about whale chart or whatever the guy's name is, saying that the reference to FTX, and the apparent hack supposedly, and then Justin Sun, the same deal with this guy, oh, there's a hack. I honestly, I know there are some hacks that happen, but I don't believe that these hacks are real. I think money's being stolen basically because shit's going to get worse and shit's going to really, really hit the fan. So expectation, Binance, I expect it to go lower. Bitcoin, for now, Bitcoin stabilizing. The longer it stabilizes up here, the more likely we are to see 40k. We need a break, in some sort of structural form. You can see the slowdown here, bang, hits it a second time, almost gets there a third time, starts to kind of regress a little bit. So if this does start to go down, remember, Binance is holding in an area, right, up here within a very tight range, right? But every time it drops, everything really drops. This is super, super important to pay attention to, right? Remember, Binance, while Bitcoin was up here, was in the 250s, 260s, and even in the 270s, right? Bitcoin hasn't really moved. Binance has. XRP has. Yeah, XRP has definitely moved, right? Dot the same. Some of the other, I won't say bigger players, but Ethereum's about the only one that's really holding up as expected. Based on what we're seeing in terms of the correlation between Bitcoin, and the rest of the cryptocurrency market. But we're seeing a lot of nonsense happening across the board. So the disparity between these cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin is becoming wider and wider and wider. The dominance that Bitcoin has on its own, is becoming much, much stronger than it ever has been, I think. So we may very well see continuation, on Bitcoin for a little while. But this kind of end game event that happens, I believe that they have to create this end game event. So think about it like this: if they want to see a crash in the market, but they don't want it to look like it was, them stealing money, right? Which we know it is, 100%, right? Then they've got to blame it on something. I said this in the last live or the live previous to that. They've got to blame it on something, and it's probably going to be, either something happened in crypto or money was stolen, 401ks, it's just reminded me about something else. 401ks, I was reading an article today about, 401ks, people are taking money out of 401ks to pay their bills, man. I mean, listen, things are bad. Things are going to get worse. So let me talk a little bit about investing in PaxG versus investing in Binance. And it's not specifically about those two, but I want to use those as an example, right? It's more about investing in something, right, that is slow, steady, calm, and the expectation is that you're going to see a steady increase in your P&L, right? As opposed to going for the big one, Binance in this case, and making a huge amount of money over a very short period of time, but then watching that erode literally overnight, yeah? So you've got to kind of ask yourself, is it really worth investing that way? If we go over to PaxG, and I'm going to show you gold first, right? If you remember that when I moved the funds over to, the LP funds over to PaxG, it was when it was when gold had already done this extremely strong month, right? And obviously, it was somewhere around here when we did the swap. And obviously the swap was for PaxG, and gold's really what you want to be paying attention to. PaxG is a custodial token, that kind of tracks gold. It's paired to gold, it's paired to the price of gold, but it's not one for one, right? So you're going to see slight deviations. You can see about $20 or $30, difference sometimes, but generally it's about $20 difference. So when I'm doing the analysis on PaxG, I'm really looking at gold, right? And when this happened, when I got in, you can see we had a drop, and we added a little bit more. I think it was around about an extra two. I took the opportunity to add an extra two PaxG down here, just to kind of pick up some more PaxG and obviously add to the LP as well. And obviously we've had a really nice run up because the expectation is that this commodity gold is solid, it's slow, it's steady. Yeah, I'm not going to get none of this crazy. It is volatile. Spot gold is absolutely insane when you're trading spot gold, but when you're investing in spot gold, okay, and you're watching the kind of spot gold price unfold over time, it's actually quite fluid. Yeah, it's obviously very liquid, absolutely, and you get these really nice structural, behavioral pockets of price that give you a really good indication of what it is that you're about to, what you're about to see, or what is going to unfold over, maybe a shorter period of time of say 3 to 5 months, right? So the expectation was there, the confirmation was there, the understanding of the commodity is there, and it makes sense, right? Psychologically, this does not scare me in any way, shape or form. I'm not emotionally invested in, oh my God, what's going to happen if gold tanks and, the entire LP just disappears, right? That would require such a biblical cataclysmic event, right, that it's not really going to matter, yeah? So gold is solid. That was the main reason why I wanted somebody to remind me, so I can really show the difference between when you're investing in something like gold, i.e. PaxG in this case, right? Or when you're investing in something like Binance, the difference psychologically is absolutely huge. I did a very quick math analysis, right, of, purchasing Binance around about say 215, give or take, and getting a really nice run of around about 50, 40 or $50, and you can make 10 grand or something like that, and that sounds fantastic. It's like, yes, great, we've increased our holdings by 10 grand or 15 grand. Sounds absolutely amazing until you look at the price today and you're like, okay, well, it was 10 grand, now it's down to 3 grand. Whereas I didn't do that with PaxG. I haven't even looked at gold other than when I made a reference to it over the last 2 to 3 days saying gold's looking solid, 2100s on the cards, and that's the point that I really want to get across today when it comes to this comparison. And this goes for all asset classes, whatever it is that you're trading. I'm only using gold and Binance as the example because we have an example to give. It's such a calmer way of investing. Why do we want to get involved in, being, say, for example, in Binance or, Bitcoin's not too bad to be fair at the minute, but, something like Binance, when we know there's a lot of stuff going on, we know the SEC hasn't finished with them. They absolutely have not finished with them, right? You've got the DOJ involved, sorry. You've got a whole bunch of, sort of three-letter agencies involved in what's going on with Binance. There's 5 years they're going to be on their case now and all of this sort of stuff. They're slowly pushing them out of the US. What did I read in my Discord? By the way, if you're not in the Discord, anybody that's listening to this later, because I know most of the people that here are in the Discord, but if you're not already in the Discord, the link is in the description below. Somebody made a reference to... I can't even remember what I was about to say. I do apologise. 1 second. It was about the US. But making a reference to the US, right? You just have to forgive me for a second. I want to find it because it's really important, right? Quitting approved today. Stock market going strong. So the reason I want to really find this is because it's very specific. The way it's worded is very specific, right? Almost there. 1 second. Almost there. So that's where I was saying a bunch of stuff. Right, we're getting into it now. So Lobo was talking about that. Complete exit from the US. Yeah, so this is what it says here. Binance will come under FinCEN monitorship for 5 years to ensure Binance's complete exit from the US and will be subject to reporting requirements and so on and so forth. This is from them. This is a statement, right? Settlement details. So does that bode well for Binance? Let's be realistic for a second, right? Come on, let's just take a step back and just be honest with ourselves. Does that sound good for Binance? All right? You can say, well, okay, Binance is in a lot of other countries. Is it though? If you go back, what's been happening, right, throughout this entire SEC investigation, right, and all the stuff that the SEC's been doing to Binance with this kind of back and forth. We'll call it the SEC versus Binance. What's been going on? UK dropping Binance, for lots of different reasons, whether it's for advertising, whether it's stopping banks, transfers to and from, Binance and so on. The same in some parts of Europe. Many countries didn't, renew their licenses, and so on. This has been ongoing for some time, right? So now we're at a stage where it's like, okay, Binance, yeah, but hang on a second. If Binance is not in the US, right, and it's slowly being filtered out of Europe, where else is there left for Binance to do business, all right? And then ultimately, you start to think about, and this is the key, what I'm about to say now, what is the true value of BNB, right? What is the true value of Binance, BNB? If you factor all of this stuff in, doesn't it make more sense, right, that Binance's price should be, if we were to take the fear and the craziness and everything that's happening, doesn't it make sense that Binance should be, probably around about 150, for example, or possibly in the hundreds, as opposed to being stuck in the 200s? For me, absolutely is, right? That makes more sense to me. So then we have a corrective phase, yeah? And the corrective phase shows up on the chart in pieces. You start to see that corrective phase happening. If we go back to the 4-hour chart of Binance, you start to see that correction happening, right? As it slowly starts to get in line with its true value. We see the drop. We see no attempt to go back up here, real attempt to go back up into the 300s. 270, yeah, sure, but 300, not so much, right? You see this distribution phase. You see a small accumulation phase, which is, for me, this so-called accumulation phase down here, and this run-up is just pure exit liquidity. It's just literally all of this that we're seeing here. If you want to take the full measure of what's happening, this section, this is pure for me. I think this is pure manipulation. I think this is funds being moved around, and this is funds being siphoned out of Binance. I think, yeah, regardless of whatever that looks like. Yeah, regardless of whatever that looks like. And it's very easy to say, no, it's not, no, and CZ this and Binance this and blah, 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 and they whatever. Okay, so why have we arrived at the point at where we're at right now, with everything that's happening with Binance? And it will continue to happen with Binance. This isn't over yet, guys. Look at FTX and how long that took. And there was a lot of dodgy shit that happened with FTX. To be fair, so much dodgy stuff. And in some respects, Sam Bankman-Fried was hailed as a hero. Was hailed as this kind of, he's becoming a martyr. You're not a martyr. You're a thief basically, and you've committed mass fraud. And as such, he got battered for it. So. It's very easy, guys, when you look at news and pictures and stuff that's posted predominantly on X and so on, of a nice looking person who looks quite humble, and ultimately you don't know what's happening in the background. This applies to all of us, yeah? We're just not in the limelight, so to speak. So we all have our own faults, we all have our own craziness that's happening, but at the end of the day, when you're dealing with billions and billions and billions of dollars, right, you end up in a situation where that either affects you or it doesn't. And ultimately, I don't trust, the SEC in any way, shape or form. Certainly don't trust the Department of Justice, some of these other three-letter agencies, but the reality is we are where we are, and what's to say he didn't commit fraud? So many people are saying he took one for the team. No, what you're really saying there is, please, I don't want my investment to go down. You're trying to validate the situation, right, and not look at it for what it really is. There is a possibility, a real possibility, that either he took, he took one for the team, for crypto as a whole to stabilize the market because he genuinely believes in it and he really loves everybody and he loves crypto, or he's committed fraud. That's it. Either way, the SEC is not going to stop going after him. Yeah, they're not. The SEC don't just let things go like that. Oh, it's all right. Just give us 4.3 billion. We'll let you go. We'll just forget about it. No, it's not going to happen. So, I think we're going to see continued, continued downside, predominantly, with Binance, and I'd even go as far as to say across the whole board, because ultimately, remember the cataclysmic. I keep using that word, but the real effect of that systemic issue. This kind of contagion that happens when Binance, which is pretty much in everything, it won't be BUSD because BUSD's been filtered out anyway, right? But BNB, there's a lot of projects that are on the Binance Smart Chain, right, that are already, I can guarantee you this, I don't know for a fact, but I can almost guarantee you this, that there are many projects that are on the Binance Smart Chain that are already looking to make changes and how they're going to be moving from the Binance Smart Chain to another chain if, push comes to shove and they get stuck, yeah? And if people aren't, or other projects that are listening to this, aren't already doing that, you might want to start thinking about doing that, because there is a real possibility that the Binance Smart Chain, gets battered. I don't want it to. Obviously, Binance has been around for a long time. We've had some good times with Binance, and it sounds all doom and gloom. It really isn't. It kind of makes me laugh when people say I'm negative all the time. I'm absolutely not. I'm being realistic. And I maintain that I will not change this chart, guys, until these levels get hit. Yeah. And it may take some time, but the reality is I'm not confident with Binance at all. I'm really not confident with what I'm seeing, and the next 5 years, there's, basically, they're going to systemically take Binance apart, and drag it out of the US, and then what's left? The Chinese market, for example, okay, it's huge, but you're not going to get as much, push, than you would in the US, for example, or some of the European countries, but predominantly the US. That's where it's really at. Cryptocurrency projects do business in the US. That's where the real money is. So, or at least that's where the real public surface money is that we see. So with that said, let's have a look here. I think you pretty much called something along these lines. It didn't sit well with you. Oh, sorry, Mike. I just seen your comment. I don't know what I was talking about when you said that. But yeah, look, that's where we're at with some of the analysis and what I'm talking about. I don't know if anybody wants to ask any questions. There's not a lot of people on the stream, obviously, but if anybody wants to ask anything, by all means, go ahead. I'm more than happy to just hang around for a little bit and just talk. But again, like I said, my main focus was just to come on and just quickly talk about Binance, really, and just kind of get a feel for what's happening with Binance, why it is doing what it's doing, and what we could be expecting going forward. I think it's going to continue. I really do. So I'll just give it a few seconds. I'll let people type if anybody's typing. Let me go into some of the Discords and see if anybody said anything. Nope. Let's take a look at the dollar, because the dollar's taken a bit of a beating as well. It's quite interesting. So I like this response. If you guys remember, I took a little trade on the dollar. The expectation was at the time, sort of 105 and lower, and I wanted to pick some dollar up for it, for a run to the 108s up here if it starts to drive towards back up here. But I need to see a little bit more now. This 4-hour chart is not looking good. So really what we need to see is we need to see this really taken out, and we need to see price back up at 105 and through 105, and there could potentially be a trade there to take out some of these highs up here as it drives towards 107. But again, it's more of a trade really. I'd even go as far as to say a swing trade potentially, on DXY or the dollar. SPYs, yeah, I mean, Surge's expectation is unfolding. Probably going to see that euphoric push into the S&P. I'm personally going to be looking to short the S&P at some point. Do not take that as financial advice, but as we get closer and closer and closer to these highs, it looks like a fantastic month, and it looks like you're going to get that, that explosive move, and we're probably going to end up at 5,000 and so on. But if we get anywhere up here, man, I'm shorting like crazy. But I'm going to be really, really careful with, with the US indices. Very, very easy to get, kind of caught blind, you're like caught on the wrong side of something that just keeps going and going and going, and then ultimately you just see that bang out of nowhere. So I want to kind of position myself very, very cautiously when it comes to this big short that I'm trying to build, because I have confidence in my analysis, and I believe what is going to unfold is going to unfold. So I'd like to move money out of. I'd like to move my money out of BNB now. Any suggestions? Thanks a million. I mean, look, I'm in fiat, to be honest. I'm holding most of my money in pounds, right? When I need to do exchanges or anything like that, I've never used Binance, to be honest, ever. It's kind of funny because I've never really liked Binance. It's so weird. I hate the app. I hate the way it works. It's so horrible. There's so many flipping things that I used to have to go. I just couldn't be bothered. The registration was a nightmare. So I use Swissbook. I've always used Swissbook when I'm kind of moving money around. The previous version of Trust Wallet was very good. This kind of new version is really bad. I hate it as well. So I don't really use Trust Wallet anymore, and I absolutely don't want to use MetaMask because of Infura. But in terms of moving your money out of BNB, I mean, just I'm not telling you to. I'm saying if you're going to move your money out of BNB, probably best to hold it in fiat currency, unless there's something else that you feel through your analysis, or through your analysis that there's something else you'd rather put it into. I don't know. But for me, I'm holding pounds, to be honest. I want to be ready. I keep a close eye on things. If you remember, we had the funds, the LP funds in BUSD for quite a while. They're in there for ages. And then I got the sense that we were going to start seeing some things in the market. Obviously I'm tracking a lot of things. I'm keeping an eye, on a lot of things. And then, I moved it over, to the Trust Wallet, from Fireblocks, because I wanted to be ready to make that swap very, very quickly if I had to. But that took some time. It took ages, and then ultimately we decided to move it to BaxG. So, you've got to kind of be on top of things to get ready for things, and then leave it there and just be patient. So my point is, if I've got pounds, which I have, and I'm looking at the markets and I'm ready, right now there's nothing for me to do. But let's say Binance really takes a dip, and I'm still confident that Binance, is going to be around, and there's an opportunity to make some money on it. As an example, if it starts to drop and it gets through 200, then it spikes down, right? I want to be thinking about getting some funds ready, right, around 211, 205, and then I'm watching. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? No. And it starts to run back up, run back up. Okay, fine. I can put those funds back where they were. And that's the point I'm making. You want to be ready for these things, and do it safely, as opposed to you've got money in a trust wallet. It's sitting there. Or let's say, for example, even worse, you've got, funds on a cold wallet and some major event happens and you really want to get access to those funds and move them quickly, right? So you can make a quick swap and forget it, man. You've missed the move. You've missed it. By the time you do all of the stuff that you need to do to move the funds off for cold, out of cold storage or even out of a wallet like Trust Wallet or whatever, you've missed the move. Like, you need to be ready for this stuff. Why not MetaMask? Because MetaMask is basically every transaction that you do on MetaMask is centralized effectively now. And it's not a decentralized hot wallet. That's basically it. Like I said, every transaction that they do, it's all connected to to Ethereum. Pretty much every block on Ethereum now is OFAC compliant. It's all centralized. It's all becoming centralized. I've never really liked MetaMask, but it does run better for testing when you're testing contracts. Suggestions as to which coin I should buy. Solana is still a good buy. Never going to answer that question, Michelle. Sorry. Yeah, this is why I don't have a lot of people in the live streams. I will never give you financial advice. Never, ever, ever, ever. Yeah, sorry, man. What else is there to look at? We looked at the S&P. Oil's taking a real pounding. I know you guys have seen this chart many times, but yeah, oil's getting a nice little slap. Somebody mentioned Cardano to me the other day, and they said, "Oh, buy Cardano," and I was like, "Why?" Convinced me to buy Cardano, quick. I said, "You got 10 minutes," and he was like, and I was like, "Forget it, man. I ain't buying Cardano. You've got no chance." There may be an opportunity to make money on it, but not seeing anything. I'm just going to be bouncing around while I'm waiting for people to type. If anybody wants to ask any more questions. What are we seeing? Euro. Nope. Don't need this to be here, to be honest. I'll get rid of that. Alibaba. Stabilizing a little, but I do expect more downside. And there's a fresh chart of Binance. That does not look good. That is not looking good. So I'll leave you with Bitcoin. Short session today. I didn't really want to come on and stay on for too long. And as always, guys, as you know, I don't like to pre-plan what I'm going to say. This is literally all off the cuff. This is what's in my head, and I like to just be honest about what I see. And I hope that people stay safe in the markets. I hope there's nobody that's listening to me that has lost money. Or that is in a position to to make money or to learn something from some of the content the content that I create. But in the end, we all have to make decisions. We've all got to be careful about what it is that we're doing, and we've got a plan. As long as you've got a plan for investing, you're in good shape. Is all this just market shift right now? Do you still feel that BNB is still worthwhile after the SEC stuff? Somebody asked me this in the other Discord, Architect. It depends. It depends. The answer that I gave to a very similar question was, with all that's happened lately with Binance, if BNB hits 148 or lower, will you still launch RFX pegged to BNB? And I said no reason not to. I said because we would know if Binance is going under effectively. That's what I was trying to say. And the same applies to what you're asking. I don't feel it's a market shift. I feel that Binance is slowly being ripped apart. Yeah, it may very well. It's not a question of survival, right? That's not what it is. It's whether or not the SEC and the Department of Justice and some of these other bigger players are going to let Binance, breathe. It's whether or not they're going to let Binance do their job. Yeah, that's the issue. And ultimately, it comes down to compliance. How strict can we make our compliance and put a wall around Binance, right? So it's like this. We will let you exist, no problem, right? But you have to do it under our rules, and we have to make money from you. Yeah, that's it. You really think that the SEC just says to these companies, in these exchanges, listen, we just want you to be licensed, yeah? Just get a subscription to a license, yeah? It's $150 a year to get a license, and that's it. You're compliant, yeah? Just stick to these rules, steps 1 to 15, and everything's good, yeah? But you need to renew the license every year. It's $150. Everyone's happy. It's nothing like that, man. It's nothing like that. The SEC will continually bring and change and morph things, right? So they can continue to keep oppressing, right, creativity. That's really what this is all about. It's about oppressing creativity to the point where Binance will be choked and fall in line, or choked and die. That's it. Now, there's a lot of things that are dependent on the Binance Smart Chain, the Binance ecosystem, and so on and so forth, right? And you say, yeah, but, would they really want such a sort of systemic problem, this kind of contagion? Yeah, 100%, because they can take everything out in one go. Whether it's Binance, whether it's FTX, whether it's whatever, look at all of the money that was lost through through FTX. Yeah, all the big players made money. Let's be blunt. We know that all of the bigger players made money. They were first to receive, yeah? They were the first on the list. The investors, the average Joe, they were the ones that were last. They're always last, always. Right? Always, always, always last. And this is what happens continually. This is why you go back 2 years, a lot of projects, when they first started to launch on the Binance Smart Chain through Pink Sale and some of these other methods or means, did so on the premise that they wanted to change something, yeah, and it was always with this idea of changing the traditional financial system, to move away from that, to give people freedom, to give people the ability to make money, consistent money over time, etc., etc., etc. And none of that has happened because the SEC, along with the US, has stepped in and they've choked the entire cryptocurrency market, until the big players are ready, to start accumulating Bitcoin, which ultimately is probably going to be the only one of real value, in terms of 10 years down the line, for example. So it's a very intricate system, and it's all being melded and twisted and turned and pushed in the direction that they want it to go into. So to be direct about the answer, because I've kind of just gone on a long-winded rant, it will be worthwhile, assuming that it hasn't been choked with regulation effectively. And I'll ask you this. Let me ask you a question, Architect, right? If BNB is no longer in the US and it's very, very limited use in Europe because a lot of countries will follow suit, they already have, the question then remains, does Binance have value? Is it worth using? Yeah, that's really what it's all about. Why do you use Binance now? Think about it like this, right? Why do people use Binance now? Not the exchange, the Binance Smart Chain, because it's the only thing that we're concerned about. The exchange itself, if it has issues, will directly affect the Binance Smart Chain, of course. But I'm talking about the Binance Smart Chain. Why do we use it? If we can come up with compelling reasons why we use it, and they're good, then you remove those reasons. Is it worth using Binance? The answer is an absolute categorical no. So it is always going to be down to, you will always have two schools of thought. There will be people that will say, Binance is great. Binance will survive. Binance is great. Binance will survive. And you've got the other school of thought that is, Binance is going to get destroyed. Right? There is no in between. There is no in between. And it's exactly the same as what we see in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the greatest thing ever, is one school of thought. The other school of thought is, Bitcoin is shit. Right? Maxis believe that Bitcoin is it and everything else is a shitcoin. That is literally the definition of what we are seeing across the entire cryptocurrency space when it comes to two schools of thought. And using the Bitcoin example again, Bitcoin is it and everything else is a shitcoin. Binance is great, Binance is shit. Crypto's great, crypto's shit. This is it. This is basically what we arrive at. So at the end of the day, it's very similar to a long and a short. Buy it, it's going up. No, I'm going to short it because I think it's going down. It's a tale as old as time itself. So you have to ask yourself, is it worth? There's this kind of idea of we have to project forward and say, well, we don't really know what's going to happen with Binance right now. So Is it going to be worth it? I don't know. Let's look at the variables, this, that, the other. Okay, 5 years, you look at all the, what's happening right now, and you say, okay, do you know what? I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to take a shot on Binance right now, hypothetical, obviously, and I'm going to buy Binance at 232. Yeah, I'm going to stick 50 grand into Binance at 232. Do you know what I mean? Because I want to take a gamble. Screw it. Do you know what I mean? See what happens. And it rips to the upside, and you're like, wow, man, what a wicked play. I'm so happy. Really pulled that off. Doubled my money. Fantastic. Yeah? Or it drops, and you're like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? So that's the simplicity of it all. There's always going to be a plus and a minus, really. The idea is the holistic view of everything, and then trying to kind of position yourself in that and say, all right, look, I'm an individual, guys. Let me tell you, I'll tell you like this. I'm an individual. My name's LSP, right? And I'm here sitting talking to you guys, and I have my ideas when it comes to trading and investing, right? But that's not the be all and end all of my existence. My existence, right, dictates that I need to provide for my family, right? And if that means shorting Binance to make 15 grand, to put aside, and split between my 3 children, just as a brief example, then I'm going to short Binance. I will never allow myself to be pulled into a narrative, right? Because some clown on X or whatever says, this, that, the other, or they post a thread and it's all great and everything else. Absolutely not. Because at the end of the day, that person or, these conversations that we have don't pay the bills. Yeah, they don't provide for my family. I do. So I have to be responsible. And the responsible thing to do for me is to leave Binance alone, right, until it gets below 200, and then I'll assess. And with that said, unless there's any more questions, again, I'm going to give it a few minutes, because we're starting to pick up we're starting to pick up a few more people now. So I hang around a little bit, and if anybody wants to ask any questions, I'll let you guys type. If not, then I will go and get myself a bit of grub, make myself a nice cup of tea. And again, a reminder, if anybody's not in the Discord, make sure you are a member of the Discord, because we do talk a lot about this stuff. You'll see the usual suspects, just rambling about what's happening within the cryptocurrency market and, trading in general, investing in general. We talk about the stock market, and indices and US and kind of global affairs, really. So it's really cool, really, really cool. This is 520. Yeah. All right, cool. I'm going to leave it at that, guys. And like I said, look, before I forget, for those that are listening, right, I want to start to, put something together in the sense of the Discord where people, we get a bunch of questions beforehand, and what we want to discuss and what we want to look at and everything else. And then when we kind of jump on, we go through all of that. Because you guys know I do not give a toss about YouTube and making money on YouTube. It would be great. It would be fantastic if I got 100,000 views per video and I had hundreds of thousands of people in my live streams. But that's not what I'm doing this for. The whole point is Discord first, community first. Anything that we want to talk about, we use the live stream setting, right, to go through these things. That's where it's really at for me. So, I need to figure it out. I need to figure out how to kind of collate all of these questions in one place so we can basically just have something to talk about after, obviously I've rambled for a bit. Hey, LSP, have you checked out the Swissborg thematics? Wondering, what do you think of them? Yeah, they're not bad. There was a time, actually, I'll just briefly go over it. Excuse me. I'll just briefly go over this. Me and Benji, we did a smart talk over there. I used to do the smart talks with him over there, and one of the team that was involved in putting the thematics together, in terms of not the thematics itself, but the actual the way that the analysis is done, the technical analysis. And I was supposed to get in touch with him, to go through a few things, because there was some things that I believed they should add to the technical analysis. I think it was called Cyborg, if I remember. Yeah, the Cyborg system. To help get a more accurate read on the markets. Yeah, but that never happened. But the point being is, it's actually not too bad. The thematics aren't too bad. Obviously, if something happens within the range of the thematic itself, you know, it has to adjust, and obviously you get your adjustment period over X amount of time, and then you get your payouts. It goes up, it goes down. But I think over time, they should make money. The gold thematic makes sense to me because it's Bitcoin and gold. You know, it's solid, it's safe, it kind of makes sense, and it's just a ratio between those two asset classes. You know, Bitcoin and gold, and it will, you know, it will adjust to make sure that it's capitalizing on a run on either. Yeah, you know, on the upside. And reducing the risk on one side as opposed to, you know, reducing the risk on one side and then adding, you know, the benefit to the other side. So, you know, at one point it was 50-50 and then it was a 70-30 ratio. Then gold was doing better, so it switched. So I absolutely love the idea of thematics, and I actually had a much better idea. Not to say I'm better, I said that wrong. We had a more complex idea, you know, on doing something similar to, you know, the thematics. Excuse me, but it never came to fruition because of what happened with RFTX. Not to say that it won't, but I'm just saying. So yeah. All right, guys, it's almost 6 o'clock. I'm going to apologise now if I get off and then somebody asks a question because they didn't have time to, you know, to type it out. But if you do want that question answering, and it's really important to you, then just jump on the Discord and post it in there, and I'll see it at some point. And with that said, keep your eyes open, keep your eyes peeled, be cautious as always, and make sure you have a plan, position yourself correctly, and I will see you all in the Discord at some point later. All the best, guys. Ciao for now.